Hello and welcome to Pock and Rob. This video is another in my series of anniversaries. I'm going to take a look at albums that are 50 years old this year. They were released in 1975. Before I go in and rank my top 15 albums from 1975, I would remind you to subscribe if you haven't already done so, to click the thumbs up if you like the video and the bell for notifications of future content, and share the video. As of today, we are probably about 15 people shy of hitting the 250 mark when I'm going to do another live stream, which I am currently in preparation for. It's going to be a tier listing of either the 70s or the 90s UK number ones. So let's go in and see what I've ranked. My legs are aching because I have a pile of vinyl records on my lap. Every single one of these albums I own on vinyl. So let's start and lift up some of the weight off my lap with number 15, Young Americans by David Bowie. This is for me, one of Bowie's weaker 1970s albums. It's on the list simply because there are 3 or 4 tracks that I really, really admire. Not least the title track, Young Americans, I think is sublimely beautiful. I quite like Fame, which of course features a certain Mr. John Lennon. The words transition album are used far too often, but we're going from the apocalyptic vision of Diamond Dogs, heading towards one of my favourite Bowie albums, Station to Station, and it kind of just lands in the middle. Plastic Soul, he called it himself. It's an attempt at Philly Soul, and it's plastic. But the title track is absolutely fantastic. And so number 15, Young Americans by David Bowie. At number 14, it's Radioactivity by Kraftwerk. So at this point here, they were still recording all of their lyrics in German. They had yet to really kind of tap into the UK, the English language market. But Radioactivity, it's not one of their finest, but it points to great stuff to come, like Trans-Europe Express and The Man Machine and Computer World. Radioactivity, my number 14. And number 13, an album that for me is an album of two halves, and the stuff that I most like is not what everybody else always cites as being great. This is The Basement Tapes by Bob Dylan and the Band. I am of the personal opinion that the band material on here is better than the Dylan material. That may change over years, but I really like stuff like Please Mrs. Henry and Tears of Rage, which I think made it onto Music from Big Pink, and Yazoo Street Scandal. And there's some people say that some of this was recorded after the time when it was meant to be recorded. Maybe that's true. I don't care. I love the band stuff on here, and I particularly adore Wheels on Fire. And for me, the version on The Basement Tapes is the definitive version of Wheels on Fire. It's better for me than Susie and the Banshees cover or the band's own version that's on Music from Big Pink. Like I said, an album of two halves. It is an important record, I suppose. The Basement Tapes. It's my number 13. Number 12, I've placed the album that won the Grammy in 76. And the artist responsible thanked Stevie Wonder for not releasing something in 1975. This is Still Crazy After All These Years by Paul Simon. Produced by Phil Ramone, I believe. Paul Simon released better albums than this beforehand, which is There Goes Rhymin' Simon. And he would go on to release better albums like Graceland. But this is the one that got him a Grammy. And it does contain the title track, which is great. The reunion with Art Garfunkel, My Little Town. And 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, which is one of his very best songs. But for me, much as I like the album, I think it falls just a little bit flat and forgettable. But I enjoy it. I know whenever it goes on, I'm going to enjoy the record. Number 12, Paul Simon, Still Crazy After All These Years. At number 11, many people have this as their best album of 1975. I just think it's a little bit bloated, which is odd, really, because it's Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin. For me, the album absolutely peaks with Side 2, when you've got Houses of the Holy, wish it had been on its title album, Trampled Underfoot and Kashmir. And then, yes, there's other good stuff on here like 10 Years Gone or Custard Pie or The Rover. But those three tracks, that one side of vinyl, is some of the best music ever committed to vinyl. And Kashmir itself is just an absolutely dreamy, wonderful track and would get its place in this listing if that was the only thing on it. But the rest of Physical Graffiti, I do think it's, like I say, them pulling out some of those tracks that didn't make it onto Led Zepp 3, 4 or Houses of the Holy because they had too much from what they'd recorded for this record. But Physical Graffiti, my number 11. So into my top 10, and I actually think all of the albums here in this top 10 are absolutely terrific, and I've got barely a bad word to say about them. At number 10, Richard and Linda Thompson's second LP, Hokey Pokey. This is probably, it's a step down from I Want to See the Bright Lights Tonight from the year before. By the time that this was released, because I believe it got delayed, Richard had become a Muslim and he started living in an Islamic commune. And so the songs on here probably don't feel relevant to him at the time when they were actually released. But you have on here Hokey Pokey, the ice cream song. Opens the album, I think is an absolute joy of a song to listen to. A Heart Needs a Home. There's Mole in a Hole, which is a cover. The Aching Smithy's Glass Eye. I mean, that is black. That's a dark song. And Georgie's on a Spree. A song that they actually re-recorded in '79 for a TV show in the hope of potentially getting a hit. It wasn't a hit. I don't think there was or ever will be a hit single from Richard Thompson, but never mind. Hokey Pokey, my number 10. At number 9, I have placed Ommadawn by Mike Oldfield. This is my copy inside boxed. So it's quadraphonic. Wow. And Ommadawn, I think, is probably my favourite of his long-form music, one-side, two-side albums. Even though it contains On Horseback at the end of side 2. So in some ways it's kind of pointing to the fact that he's going to do shorter song-based material in the future. This is Mike Oldfield singing on Horseback as well, and it's just a sweet little song. But the actual long-form stuff, I think, is better than Tubular Bells or Hergest Ridge or Incantations, Tubular Bells 2, and was worthy of a follow-up album in Return to Ommadawn, which has turned out to be his last record. It was a number 4 hit, so it wasn't as successful as the first two albums, but I think it's better. And I really like chilling out to Ommadawn. And Ommadawn too, Return to Ommadawn. It's my number 9. And number 8, a contender for best album of 1975 for other people, but I've got several above it. Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen. Born to Run alone is absolutely phenomenal, but I like Jungle Land and 10th Avenue Freeze Out and Thunder Road. And maybe the album isn't as good as it's sometimes given credit for. Maybe it's one of the more overrated records of all time. But those 4 tracks that I've mentioned are over half of the record, and the rest of it, when it's on, I enjoy it. But Thunder Road is just possibly Bruce's best song for me. Born to Run, my number 8. At number 7, this was lower down on the list until very recently when I decided to give it another spin and then get it so that I could actually literally spin it on a turntable. Fleetwood Mac. Not a massive hit in the UK. Took over a year to become a number 1 hit in the US. But it's almost the definition of a sleeper hit. The best known tracks are Say You Love Me and Rhiannon, both of which were singles. But I really like Monday Morning. I like Landslide. The closing track, I'm So Afraid, is thought to be the document from Lindsey Buckingham's side of the breakup of the relationship with Stevie Nicks, whom he had helped recruit into this band. When Mick Fleetwood invited him, he said, no, not unless my then girlfriend, Stevie Nicks, joins. Fleetwood Mac, from 1975, which might even be something like their 10th record, is it's a reset button. There's more than one version of Fleetwood Mac, but this is the start of the definitive classic era lineup of the 5 of them. And I've placed Fleetwood Mac at number 7. At number 6, Venus and Mars by Wings. This is a really good record. It's not as good as Band on the Run, but I have known and had a love, sometimes loathe, but usually love relationship with Venus and Mars. There is some cheese in it, like the Crossroads theme, but all of the McCartney stuff and the song written by Jimmy McCulloch is great. In fact, the song written by Jimmy McCulloch, which is Medicine Jar, probably my favourite thing on this record. But this record also contains Listen to What the Man Said and Venus and Mars Rock Show and Lovin' Song, which I put down quite low on my ranking when I did my track-by-track ranking of this, but I still like it more than a lot of other songs. And it's got Spirits of Ancient Egypt and Call Me Back Again. The reason why sometimes I kind of dislike the album is because all but 3 of these tracks are done better on Wings Over America. And if you have Wings Over America, you've got a better Venus and Mars. That said, it's a great record. I did a video right at the start of the year where I did my conjecture, and I said there's going to be a 50th anniversary half-speed master of this record. I expect you to look out for the announcement of that around April. I was wrong, but only in the fact of timing. Announcement came out yesterday, I think, that there is going to be the half-speed master of Venus and Mars released, and it's going to come out in March, 2 months before its 50th anniversary. Timing's odd, don't you think? Something's brewing in Paul McCartney's camp, and he wants to keep the summer free for some kind of announcement or release. Why not release it on the 50th anniversary, Paul? I think you've got something up your sleeve. I can't wait to see what, though. But Venus and Mars is my number 6. And number 5, cited by many as their best album, but not by me because I think it is their second album that is best, but this is A Night at the Opera from Queen. This is the point which, arguably, the Queen formula really came together. And yes, I would probably say it's a definitive artistic statement because Bohemian Rhapsody's on it. But there's just, for me, 1 or 2 slightly fillery tracks that aren't as good as almost everything that's on Queen 2. I've been listening to the album for over 35 years, I think, and it's my number 5. And number 4, I suspect that this is the least known album that I'm going to mention by most of the people watching this video. Pour Down Like Silver by Richard and Linda Thompson. Their second album of 1975 and the last before they went into kind of... They permanently moved into the commune and they stopped releasing music. Richard was going through a lot of soul-searching stuff at the time. And the quality of the songwriting on here is what elevates this above hokey pokey, in my view. The Night Comes In is where this album gets its title from. We have Beat the Retreat on here. For Shame of Doing Wrong, really great song. Jet Plane in a Rocking Chair and Hard Luck Stories. And then right at the end, the absolutely beautiful Dimming of the Day. It's almost hymn-like. It's really gorgeous. Pour Down Like Silver is my number 4. At number 3, Captain Fantastic and the Brown Out Cowboy by Elton John. The biographical album that he that was written in order of the album by Bernie Taupin and Elton John together. It tells the story of their struggle for fame and for songwriting. It runs all the way up to the release of Empty Sky. It has a sequel, of course it does, in Captain and the Kid. And I don't think that Elton released a more cohesive record in the entirety of his career. Nothing is out of place. Everything is in its right structure and order. It's not my favourite Elton album. That happens to be Madman Across the Water. But I would possibly contest that it's his best album. This is the whole kind of thing about best and favourite. This isn't my favourite Elton album, but it is, I think, his best. Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy sits pretty at number 3. At number 2, I have placed the follow-up to one of the best-selling albums of all time, Wish You Were Here. Dominated by Shine On You Crazy Diamond, which starts the record, closes the record. 2 long-form pieces that are beautifully stitched together. In between we have a Cigar, Welcome to the Machine, and the title track, Wish You Were Here. 5-track album, and it's absolutely fantastic. And I remember first hearing this on my friend's CD in we'd gone away for the New Year period in a shared house, and kind of being woken up to the sound of Shine On You Crazy Diamond. What on earth is this? It's quite an intriguing track to wake up to. It's very dreamlike. You do kind of wonder what you're listening to. Wish You Were Here, my number 2. And at number 1, I have placed Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan. This is a towering achievement from a man who many thought had lost it. I mean, it's not really a comeback. He'd never gone away. But it was such a triumph that he felt he could now release the Basement Tapes. We have the Basement Tapes because of Blood on the Tracks. This contains Tangled Up in Blue and Simple Twist of Fate, which are 2 of my all-time favourite Dylan songs. Buckets of Rain and Shelter from the Storm. There's criticism of Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts in that he's off-key throughout and he rushed the recording of it, but I really like Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts. An Idiot Wind, of course. An absolute polemic, a vitriol against somebody. We're not entirely sure who. Sometimes cited as basically a painful breakup album because he and Sarah were starting to head towards divorce. But it's a great record. It's my number 1. And what I find interesting about my overall list of top 15 is that they're all good albums or great albums, but not one of them is my favourite album of that particular artist. I wouldn't say that 1975 was a bad year by any stretch. It clearly isn't. But not one of them is it the pinnacle of their musical career. Maybe Elton John's. But even if it wasn't Madman Across the Water, other people would claim it was Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. It's odd. I find that really, really strange. And I don't know why. I don't know why not one of them is my absolute favourite of that artist. Because even Omadorn isn't my favourite Mike Oldfield album. That's platinum. Anyway, let me know what your favourite albums of 1975 are. It was a great year for music. No question about it. Leave a comment. I'll remind you before I go to subscribe, like, hit the bell, share the video, and thanks for watching.